Why do we do it to ourselves? We know that most game publishers do not care about us at all. They don't even care about their own series. They see gamers as nuisances, that the passion is getting in the way of us being happy to spend money on microtransactions, buy the new battle pass, consume product. And that is exactly how I feel at the moment, and many others are feeling about Konami with Silent Hill. Silent Hill is an incredible series, or at least it was. Games 1 to 4, wonderful, wonderful psychological horror. They're incredibly interesting, unique for their time, and some of them, especially Silent Hill 2, have aged really, really well. You would think back on the PS2, for instance, going back to revisit it, 2001, I think it came out, you'd think it's going to be rose-tinted glasses, but something about it is very, very special, and it remains a really high-tier horror title. In some cases, people's favorite horror title ever. It is that good. So it is a series with a high pedigree. Konami over the years have decided to put out absolute crap, and they've run the franchise into the dirt. It has been beaten, battered, bruised. It resembles my character in Dark Souls on my very first playthrough of that game. It is not good. And yet, fans still remained hopeful. Every few years, they'd get excited. Even when Konami essentially put the series on ice, it had a ton of terrible games, and they ended up doing nothing with it. They released a few ports. They couldn't even get them right. They stuffed up the ports of the game. So it was rock bottom for the franchise, or so we thought. But last year, Konami, they conducted a presentation where they announced not just one Silent Hill game, but a whole suite of games. And fans were understandably hyped to some degree, and you might say, do not get hyped, this is Konami. Now, I'm someone who played Yu-Gi-Oh! For a number of years, and if you were as sad as me, you would know to steer clear of anything to do with Konami. They are scum, they do not care at all about any sort of long-term value. They just want your money now. They don't care if they're going to screw over their own IPs, their own series. Take the money, worry about next year when the time comes, when they have to trick fans all over again. But they're happy to take your money and run their franchises into the dirt. So the Silent Hill games that they announced, there was a brand new one, Silent Hill F, and we don't know much about it except that it doesn't really resemble Silent Hill, but sure, fans were willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. It had been so long since a main series Silent Hill title, keep that in mind. They announced a remake of Silent Hill 2. I mentioned how great it is, that high pedigree. Even still, given so much can go wrong, fans were still optimistic. Doesn't matter that the remake is being made by Bloober Team, who have proved themselves incompetent in many regards. They put out regularly mediocre titles. I can't think of one great game they've put out, and yet they're in charge of remaking one of the best games of all time. Interesting. But still, fans didn't shit on it too much. They gave Konami, once again, we shouldn't do this, the benefit of the doubt. They announced a few other titles as well, a few spin-offs, different products, and that leads us to today. That leads us to Silent Hill Ascension, and since that presentation, it is the only product they've actually put out that is Silent Hill related. We're still waiting for everything from that conference. Right now, it's just promises. Konami certainly haven't delivered outside showing off a couple of trailers, mostly cinematic, not really a lot of gameplay. Now, Silent Hill Ascension, I'm not kidding, it took me 20-30 minutes to actually figure out what the hell this is. I thought it must be some sort of game, so I went on Steam, no luck there. I thought maybe Epic Store exclusive, Konami, take the money from Epic, that would be their sort of thing. Went on there, nothing, crickets. So I thought, what is going on here? And I looked up the game again, and it's not a game. It's a Genvid interactive series. It's like some sort of TV show. I honestly thought, alright, maybe it's not a playable game. Maybe it is more of a streaming experience, such as on Twitch, and it talks about how you can pay money to influence decisions. So you're essentially voting for different choices in the game. It's like if you had an RPG, you go to make a choice and the community votes on what you're going to be doing. So I thought it might be something like that, but that is not even the case. It just seems to be like an interactive TV show, interactive movie. And they have the microtransactions. They've got the battle pass. Don't you worry, it's not something that you just buy and you get the product. No, 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 that wouldn't do it all in 2023. There's talk about you can buy emojis. I think there's a trauma emoji, and you can buy that, and you can see chatters, and you can all interact and have a good time together, supposedly. Just a side note on that, apparently some legend managed to, almost like an NFT, download the JPEG, the image file of the trauma emoji, and could just start using it. So you could bypass actually having to pay for the microtransactions. So good on that person. Hopefully they keep doing it for any of these products. Hopefully there's always going to be a loophole. But Silent Hill Ascension, what about the quality? Forget that they haven't actually released a game here. How is it? Well, I managed to track down a review from someone on the Silent Hill subreddit, and what they had to say is, I cannot believe this is what Konami chose to revive Silent Hill with. The franchise should have stayed dead if this is what they think is acceptable. Either that, or they got scammed. I think we got scammed, or the fans got scammed. I'm not willing to give Konami the benefit of the doubt. This Genvid, whatever they are, I haven't looked up anything else they've done, I do not care. Everyone seems to be saying this is crap, and any goodwill that Konami had built up with that Silent Hill presentation last year, that is almost gone. People have had it. The fact that this was heavily monetized, it leads me, and perhaps others, to suggest, were they just announcing games like the Silent Hill 2 remake, the new game, to try and build up some goodwill, so suckers would happily spend money on a battle pass for a TV show, essentially? Absolutely pathetic. This was their chance to redeem themselves in the eyes of fans. You need to hit a home run for once. Show that you are investing in the Silent Hill IP, and you're determined to bring it back, like Capcom did with Resident Evil. That series went off the rails with kinda Resident Evil 5, then certainly 6, but they got back on track with 7 and the latest remakes. Konami, though, they resemble a cartoon character slipping over a banana peel when they try and deliver any sort of product. They are absolutely hopeless. It makes me think about the Metal Gear recent ports as well, because that should really tell us what the quality control is like, what their priorities are like. That was a sure win, a series of games that are beloved. All you've got to do is re-release them, ensure an acceptable standard of resolution for 2023, and you're pretty much done. People are going to be happy. They'll probably even pay full price. We've seen all these remasters recently, like the Red Dead Redemption one. That is absolutely pathetic. There's not even a PC port of it. It was released on Switch, for instance, for full price. Not a remaster, I should say. It was literally a straight port. So there's examples of bad pad ports going around, and all Konami had to do was be better than that. They struggled. They dropped the ball. They couldn't even release in a modern resolution. I think they're 720p and they're upscaled or something. And you want to charge full price? Forget it. People are just going to emulate it. Now, I'll tell you what worries me. It is one thing for them to release a joke of a product in this Ascension, whatever it is. But it seems like this won't be the end, because Konami apparently have more than one Silent Hill remake in development. So the remake of 2 by Bloober Team, that is already questionable to me. We saw a little while ago that there was a low number of achievements in the game, and I don't really care about achievements, but I think it was only like 8 or 9, and it just made me think that we might be getting a very small game, that it's not really going to be a full-fledged AAA release that is absolutely the same in scope as the original Silent Hill 2 title. It feels like, to me, it might be very, very story-driven, walking simulator kind of style. They're going to put the story in there, but actually exploring the town of Silent Hill, is that going to be a thing? I would really question it. And Bloober Team have never really made a massive game. I haven't played the medium, I will say that. Maybe that's bigger than the Layers of Fear titles, but they were pathetic games. So I really didn't think that Layers of Fear was good. So Bloober Team, they do not have my confidence. Although I will say this, I feel like their level of integrity is still higher than Konami. So the two of them together, that's the brains of the operation. I'm very, very concerned. But to hear they're making more Silent Hill remakes, Who's going to be making them? Is it going to be Bloober Team again? Are they going to keep churning them out? What are they really going to do? You feel like they would have to do Silent Hill 1 next if they're going to do it, because 3 is a direct sequel to 1. So it really would have to go 2 comes out, then you release 1, then you release 3, and I guess you would do 4 as well. And what really troubles me is if we look at Silent Hill Ascension, we look at this promotional image, psychological horror is meant to be very subtle. It's meant to be eerie. It's not really meant to be in your face. That's, at least for me, how I feel about it. When I feel that tension, when I feel uneasy, I know that they're getting a psychological horror title, right? This image, this promotional image, it just looks really obvious, like a boardroom of suits sat around and thought, all right, how do we craft something in the psychological horror space? Let's put all the tropes up on the whiteboard and come up with something out of that, something really, really obvious that anyone can see and think, oh, that looks creepy. It doesn't do it for me at all. This series clearly does it for no one. I can't believe this is the first product they released in what you would think is a Silent Hill reboot, essentially. Bringing it back, trying to build that IP up again. What is so sad is that they had Silent Hills. They had that PT demo, and that just built hype on its own. It was that good to people. Everyone wanted more of it. And instead it was put on ice, and then they come out with this. Completely pathetic. Now, I guess on a more positive note, there is news that GameStop, some other retailers, have started putting out pre-orders for Silent Hill 2 Remake, and I'm not sure if the cover they're showing on their websites is final, or if it's just a placeholder. It looks a bit mediocre, to be honest, but it seems like this will come out soon, so at least we can find out if this awful Silent Hill Ascension TV series thing, interactive show, if that's just a one-off dud, and maybe the developers Konami are hiring are doing a good job. That is what we're going to see very soon, it seems like. We'll get Silent Hill 2. My expectations is that we'll get the story. I don't think they'll completely stuff up the story, but they may muck up the tone. It may be they just can't get that right. It doesn't feel creepy enough. It doesn't have that build-up. You don't get that uneasy tension as you play through, as you explore the town. That's going to be extremely difficult to get right. And for Silent Hill 2, it was never about, oh, you've got to improve the graphics, because, again, on the PS2, the way they do the fog and the style, it's still aged quite well. So to improve it, that is going to take a bit of work, and anything that Konami put their stamp on, I'm never convinced these days. They are absolutely so low on the pedigree of developers. I would even put, say, a Blizzard Entertainment above them. I'd probably even put EA above them. Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order. I know Jedi Survivor had that terrible PC port, but they're still at least putting out some good products, whereas Konami, I can't think of anything they've done in recent years that I've been happy with. I've avoided them like the plague. Maybe we still should. They're going to have to prove themselves. But thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.